Dan, would you?
Did you want me first or the sheriff? Or,
You're first.
Okay. A few minutes here. I'm Dan Dean, the county commissioner, kind of giving an annual report on some activities going on in the county. Again, we had the county reorganization meeting a couple weeks ago, and the officers were retained from last year. Justin Faber is the chairman, Jim Ruby the vice chairman, and I'm continuing as finance chair. We ended last year, I think, with a very solid budget surplus. The county, you're never overwhelmed with money, but I think through sound management of our department heads, including our sheriff here tonight and this very successful bed rental program, the county ended with about a surplus of about $1.4 million, which is about where the auditors recommend we have our budget. On a $14 million budget, they recommend about a 10% carryover, and that's approximately where we're at right now. So I believe, our department heads have been frugal. We asked for the 2016 budget. They hold the line on spending. They came back with requests that were very reasonable. We've also got to credit our employees. They've taken some real hits with health insurance in the last couple of years. They've stepped up for us, and we continue to work with them in ways to contain healthcare costs, but still be fair and reasonable to them as well. So we're pleased with the status of the budget. Again, as anyone can attest to at the local level, you're never overwhelmed with funds, and there's always lots of ways to spend it. Some of the priorities we've had for this year, you may have read in the paper, there's a building we're renovating, the ADAPT building, to house certain county departments, including the Drug Task Force, our Central Dispatch, and also provide a new conference room for the county, because when we sold the building across the street from the courthouse, we lost that conference room. We had more space than we needed, so our goal was to reduce, consolidate, and then renovate what we needed to serve the needs of the departments we have there. So that project's currently underway, and we hope to have it done by this summer. With the presidential primary coming up here in a couple months, the state allowed us to put ballot proposals on there. We have several countywide millage proposals that have been in existence, most of them for some time. Some of them are up for renewal this year. So we have 3 proposals, the veterans millage, and we have the med control for training of our first responders, and then a new proposal that is the first time going in front of the voters is for recycling, 0.15 of a mil. That would allow for expanded recycling programs throughout the county. We currently operate a recycling center in Sandusky. We had the dumpsters throughout the county. Those did not work out well. They were turning into trash dumpsters that just created a lot of extra work for the localities where they were at. So a year and a half ago, the board decided to pull those back and consolidate our recycling efforts in Sandusky. It's been successful to the extent that people like it, and we're getting a lot of recyclables in. The downside of recycling right now is that the market for recyclables has collapsed along with the world oil prices. And a lot of our plastic-based things are oil-based, and so as the world oil price dropped, the demand for recyclables has dropped with it. Where we used to generate maybe $60,000 or $70,000 a year by selling the recyclables, that's down to maybe $16,000 or $18,000 this year. So that's been a challenge for us as well. People are committed to recycling, we're committed to recycling. This millage would allow us to expand educational programs, perhaps expand some local mini units to put around the county, perhaps on a rotating basis where there's a schedule where they'll be in certain towns on certain days and supervised. The problem with the old dumpsters was they weren't supervised. People would put trash in them and just created an untenable situation there. So that'll be considered by the voters during the March presidential primary as well. There'll be other renewals up in August and November perhaps. The courthouse this year is celebrating its 100th birthday. The anniversary of the reconstruction that occurred after the fire in 1915. They rebuilt a new courthouse that was dedicated in 1916. So we're having a rededication on April 12th. I think it'll be quite an impressive event. It's an impressive facility, and we kind of take it for granted because we're in and out of it all the time. It really is a magnificent piece of architecture. You look at the marble and the architecture that went into that 100 years ago. And a lot of it's been obscured by drop ceilings, and we're trying to kind of get it back to its original luster. But we're looking at different ways of innovation there that are cost effective, that could restore the historical really beauty of that building. But we are having a rededication on April 12th at the courthouse as well. Some of our goals for the year in the board, of course, maintaining the budget, that's our highest priority, while watching the line on spending, and looking at creative ways to deal with some of our challenges in healthcare and with the unfunded liability we have for retiree healthcare. That's kind of the 800-pound gorilla in the room for local governments all over America right now, where you have a certain liability that was incurred for your retirees for when they retired and the health care they would have. Traditionally, local governments paid for that year to year. It was like you paid for your active employees' health care, you paid for your retiree health care at the same time. The government came in a few years ago and said you have to calculate that like you would a pension and project the cost out for the next 30 years, which is fine, but it comes back with a pretty large number, in our case about $12 million. That sounds scary, but again, that's the projected cost of retiree health care for the next 30 years. We continue to pay as we go each year. The retirees are receiving their health benefits, and we're looking at ways to creatively deal with that liability that kind of hangs over everybody's head right now. It doesn't affect our credit rating, which is rock solid. We're at a AA credit rating, but it's still, we have to find ways to deal with that. And so we're working with our employee groups to look at possible ways to fairly maintain that benefit, to finding a cost-effective way to protect the taxpayers and in the most efficient way to deal with it. Just a few words here, and I know, there's been some controversy here in Greenleaf Township, and I just want to give some words of encouragement here. These things happen. I've been around politics for a lot of years, and sometimes you have situations that kind of take on a life of their own, and it seems unpleasant. You get through it. I've seen it happen. It comes, people resolve it, and things work out for the better in the long run. I think, local government's a challenging activity, and I have all the respect in the world for anyone who's willing to step up and avail themselves to serve their community. This is a wonderful township you have up here. It's a beautiful township. People strive to come up here and enjoy the scenery and the hunting. And hopefully, in the course of the electoral process that will unfold on the various stages throughout the next year, you can return back to the working, functioning unit here. Kind of related to that, just a little update. With the vacancy in the treasurer's position here, the county was statutorily obligated to make sure the taxes were collected. And so our county treasurer took it upon responsibility to contract with someone to arrange that. So your taxes are being collected. To that extent, the functions of government are being performed here. And the county is available to assist. It's not our role to interject ourselves into local issues, but we are available to assist. To that end, the county clerk, Denise McGuire, would like some kind of notification on the status of the vacancy. That she needs some kind of official notification if you are unable to fill the vacancy, that she needs to know that. So the next step in arranging a special election can take place. I think she's communicated that to you folks as well. But again, we're available to assist. We have local issues. I realize that. It's always challenging to deal with issues at the local level, and sometimes they take on a life of their own, but you will get through this. I think you have a great township here, and I think we look forward to the days when things settle down and things are functioning well. Now, the sheriff here has some crime statistics he wanted to share, and he makes his rounds every year and does a fantastic job at that, so we have to turn it over to you.
Probably not going to take too much time. Each year I do endeavor to do this. This is a county-wide statistic also. There are a few copies here. I guess I could, you could pass them around. Maybe all of you looked at them. For those that don't know me, I am your sheriff, Gary Benecki, and each year I endeavor to go back into the communities and let you know how things are going. I make your board aware of it. I try to make the citizens aware of it, and I make myself available. Looking at it statistically, the township itself, crime, although it's down or up in the township by roughly 10 complaints. You only had about 38 criminal complaints that occurred in the township last year. It tells me things are safer and things are going good. Unfortunately, that's about 10 more than you had the year before. You had 28. With that said, the majority of the crimes, or where the spike come in, was internet-type crimes. It's your fraud, where they're preying on our seniors, preying on anybody they can get a buck out of. That's where we seem to see the biggest increase, and you've seen it here as well. It kind of spiked here. But overall, your calls for service in the community, although they were up slightly, they were all mainly traffic stops on M53, for instance. All that's logged, all that's reported. And you did see a slight increase in the overall numbers of calls for service, as I put it through central dispatch, because everything's tracked. And you had roughly 479 calls last year in 15, and in 14 you had roughly 438, I think it was. So you had just a slight increase. But again, it's nothing that looks out of place. And we try to track everything. We look at the time of day, day of the week, even what months. And we can try and crunch some numbers any way we can. And what it allows your sheriff to do is better serve you. Because I don't want to patrol here when they're not needed. I want them here when they're needed. And if there's high times that our services are needed here, that's when we want to be there. And that's what I endeavor to do. So, other than that, I really don't want to belabor anything too long. We had a great year last year. As Commissioner Dean mentioned, and I want to steal this precious minute to remind people that your sheriff gets it. I'm there constitutionally to house county inmates first, and I promise you, with all the power that I have and my power being, that county inmates get first, and near and dear to my heart, I have a bed and I have a meal for them. With that said, if, just like a chair is empty here, if there's a bed empty, we rent it. And the way we run it is we endeavor ourselves to the United States Marshal Service, which we believe is willing to pay the top dollar to have these inmates here. And last year we generated $2,735,000 doing just that. With the addition on the jail, I thank each and every one of you from the bottom of my heart, because it allows your staff to do that effectively, more efficiently, and we've generated an extra $1 million in income now the last 2 years. So if you wonder how it's being paid for, it's actually being paid for right off them bed rentals. So in a way, it's a great exchange. Your budget for corrections last year was $2.4 million. We brought in over 2.7. That extra money goes into the coffers to be used for other services around the county. So just understand, if you have any questions on it, I'm available day or night and available to answer them. Other than that, overall in the county, the crime is down. We're going to try and keep it that way. Meth, amphetamine use, and heroin use seems to be the only two areas that's really seeing a huge spike in the county. But the breaking and enterings and things like that are down, so I'm feeling good about that. Any questions of the board?
I like what you're doing to those beds. Good job.
It is, you know, it does help pay the bills. And when you think that you got to pay for the same light bulb, you got to pay for the same staff, we might as well be maximizing that return. And we endeavor to do that. Your correction staff don't get paid a dime extra to babysit that extra person, if you will. We do it because it's the right thing to do, and you're the taxpayer, and we answer to you. So, I don't know if it's appropriate, if there was one or two questions anybody had, I'd do that, and then I'm going to shut up.
I do have a question. Sheriff Badicki, I have a question. If a woman sees a man in her yard, and the next day she's so petrified that she has seen this person in her yard, the next morning she calls the sheriff's department, and she is told that people can be in your backyard, and they did not come out and even take her statement down. Is that how our township, or how our counties ran?
First of all, you got to remember, Central Dispatch is a separate entity. You believe it's part of the sheriff department. I own the employees; they're my employees. The problem is the dispatch itself is, thanks to changes at the state level, they've made them a civilian type facility. What I'm going to do is leave you my card, because I want to go back and look at that date, look at that time. And unfortunately, you have somebody that has no background with investigating crime that made a decision, if that truly happened that way, and made that decision to not send anybody. I endeavor to send somebody. Our mission, your mission for your sheriff's office is we need to be there for you. And I can't apologize yet. I have to get the rest of the facts, and if I have to, I'll look you right in the eye and tell you we screwed up. That's what I'm here about, and anybody that knows me that knows that's the way I function. But I'll look into it. No, they are trespassing. That is a trespass.
They are trespassing.
And it should be
And
dealt
she
with.
was petrified for her family. And she was told that people can be in your backyard.
But, you know, that also happens to be a law I'm a little bit familiar with, and under trespassing, if it's somebody that you know, you have to warn them. You actually have to give them like verbal notice or some type of notice that you're not welcome on my property ever again. And it sounds stupid, but that law works that way, just like with hunting. You have to put signs up every 50 feet.
But to
Why
have
do
an
you have to put
officer
signs
not
up?
come out the next day
They
and
should.
take a statement, for her to be.
I need to check on it, I really do, because
Yes,
it's unfair.
you do. Yes.
I don't know, and I can look right back to, you can give me anywhere near the date and time, or who it was that called.
Okay.
This computer program, 66,000 lines of data. Central Dispatch receives over
I don't really
109,000
wanna hear any
calls a year.
excuses, I just wanna know that when a woman calls a sheriff's department, because they've seen a man in their yard, I want our sheriff's department, their guys to come out here, that's what you're paid for, and you're supposed to be there for the
And
people.
I promise you I will check into it, I'll give you my card.
I appreciate that.
I'd like to call you back and let you know all of it, so I know what took place. Any other comments, questions, criticisms, suggestions? I'm there, online, my cell phone, day and night, whatever. Truly, if you have any questions, please call.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We do need to address the year schedule if you're not put it on. Can you speak up, please? Sure. Thank you.
Approve the agenda. Motion on the, hey, make a motion to approve the agenda as written with the addition of the yearly schedule. We'll need to add to that. Got a second, Christine? All in favor? Aye. Carried. Approve the minutes from 11/19. Ken's got a motion to approve the minutes, we have a second? Randy, second, all in favor? Aye. Approval of the bills.
I just, include copies of each one of those for you guys.
Mr. Supervisor, are there open questions on the bills? Can we ask anything?
At
Can we ask
the
questions?
end of the meeting, we'll have public comment.
Oh, okay.
So it looks like we will have some reliable roll-off bills too here. I think I have the current from electric and Detroit Edison. Would like to make note that I just received, a pile of mail from Randy Shooty, acting as a liaison for Bernadette Kane and Louis Lamming.
I think we better pay the late bill.
Looks like there might be one check in here. Yeah. So I would like to add, to the accounts payable to reliable roll-off, and only will be 2 or 3 months, but the standard routine bill.
Question is, how are we gonna pay the bills?
We need a treasurer, and statute there, and then we'll
What was that?
we need a treasurer to pay the bill.
You wanna comment on some of that, Mr. Churchill, please?
Yeah, I've got in front of me, I'm David Churchill, from Taylor, Butterfield, and Lapeer. I'm an attorney for the township. Michigan compiled law 41.75 says, in addition to other business matters that may be acted upon at a regular meeting of the township board, the township board shall approve claims against the township and authorize the payment of allowed claims. So first, everything has to be approved by the whole board. I think you already know that and you're already doing that. Accounts approved by the township board shall be filed and preserved by the township clerk. The payments authorized shall be paid by the treasurer on the order of the township board, signed by the township clerk. So as a practical matter, I think your procedure is generally that it's signed by the treasurer and by the clerk. And of course, it says, shall be paid by the treasurer. Now, unfortunately, you can't have a deputy treasurer unless you have a treasurer, okay? We have had other townships in this situation, and as a practical matter, there's no statutory authority for this, but I've learned that we have in the past had the township adopt a resolution which would authorize the payment of approved bills by the clerk and one other person. Typically, it would probably be the supervisor, because the supervisor is an officer, but there really isn't statutory authority for it to be the supervisor or anyone else. Banks generally will ask for resolutions of the board resolutions of the board are what the banks use to determine who has authority to sign a check. So while we don't have statutory authority here, besides a treasurer, as a practical matter, you also have a legal obligation to pay the bills, and you don't want to lose power and light. So just kind of taking a look at a creative solution, maybe you could adopt a resolution that says approved bills would be paid if signed by the clerk and the supervisor and both trustees. Maybe you could all sign the checks if you're not comfortable limiting it. You might have to have special checks prepared. But I think a bank would be comfortable with that and it would get the bills paid. I can't find any statutory authority for that, but I think it would work.
Would there be repercussions because by statute, a treasurer needs to disperse the payments?
You know, like I say, I don't see statutory authority for this. I don't know where the repercussions would come from because, you know, it's a case where, and that's maybe the beauty of every single trustee signing the checks, because then every single trustee would be in agreement that that check needs to be signed. And if there was a claim that it shouldn't have been paid, it would seem like a no harm, no foul situation if it's a legitimate bill that should be paid. So it's hard for me to see where any adverse consequences would come, you know. There does come a point where you say, what are the consequences? You know, you want to follow the law to the letter, but what are the consequences if every single person signed a check and the bill got paid, and if somebody wants to set aside that payment, it would be a useless act to set it aside because it has to be paid anyway. And the minute you get a treasurer, somebody could say, well, they need to all pay that money back, and then you pay them again. And I don't think a court would require you to do that, because a court will not generally require you to perform a needless act. So it's not the greatest solution, I just think it would work.
My question is, would we have to do this at an open public meeting because it'd be a violation of the Open Meetings Act for all of us to meet?
That's a real good question.
That
and I
would be a
didn't think of
major
that, but,
violation.
you know, maybe you could have I mean, I didn't really wanna say all four because if you're not making decisions, it's not a public meeting. But it would be better if you didn't do it all together unless it was right here at the meeting. You know, you could do it right at the meeting if everything was prepared in advance. You can't make decisions, you can't deliberate, and, but it's a ministerial act to sign a check, so I don't think it would be a violation, but I think there is a little bit of a threat there, and, there's always the danger you're gonna start talking about something, and deliberating accidentally. You can't deliberate, so maybe a solution would be you designate the clerk and one other person on the board. You know, like I say, the supervisor is the one official, has some official capacities, it isn't exactly paying bills. And, you know, we're looking at this, and the county commissioner, you know, pointed out a couple of sections, and unfortunately, a supervisor can create a deputy, but it's a deputy supervisor. You can appoint a manager, and the manager can be directed to perform any duties except duties delegated to someone else by law, such as a treasurer, without consent. So, unless with consent. So, consent of who? Consent of the board or consent of the treasurer? There is no treasurer. So maybe that would be another solution, and that would be to appoint a manager who is authorized by the board to pay bills if they're approved by the board and if they're also signed by the clerk. But, like I say, it would have to be consent of the board. And is that a stretch? Yeah, it probably is a stretch. I think if you have a resolution of the board and turn that into a bank, I think they would accept that. And that's what we've done in the past without treasurers, is name somebody else, and it's worked. And if it's, you know, it's just the best I can come up with, so.
So with that being said, should we get somebody
Let's approve these.
to approve the bills? On this approval of the bills. I make a
So
mo-
to the list I did add, reliable roll off, I believe we go in December and January, not been approved, so $1,200.
should be an additional $1,200 to this.
Did everyone get paid from the November meeting?
No, sir.
Is that on here?
That was approved, but the last, if you look at the back here.
It's been approved, but it hasn't been paid. Okay. Just out of curiosity, what's this revenue that we received, the $640?
That's a check that needs to be deposited, and it is payment in lieu of taxes for swampland, and since it's DNR land.
Okay. That's probably state line.
Yeah. And for some reason, it was made out to me, but, I'll hold it for later. And then the planning commission wages would be for the meeting tonight, that was dependent on attendance. So there will be 5.
So all in all, we racked up about $3,675 in legal fees in the last few months.
Yep.
Watch these legal fees, we didn't plan on these coming.
All in favor? Oh,
Sure.
I gotta, I guess I'll make a, motion on the floor to, approve the bills.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Planning commission report, Ken?
The last meeting, we pretty much kind of going over the tower here and setting up the special hearing. Tonight we had the special hearing, the special land use permit was granted, so
Now,
that's,
at the last meeting, did you, get any progress done on the new building?
no. It was
All-
all our time was
Time
pretty
was-
well taken up on the tower issue.
Okay. All right. Zoning administration report, Mr. Mitchell? Any new permits or any new business in the township?
we've had one this year so far,
One permit?
one, yeah. Things is a little cold right now. Okay.
Old business, appointee of the treasurer.
So we did get a new, applicant for treasurer position, and you have in your packet. But it's Kimberly Toner, presented her application. And her resume is attached to that.
Now, I thought our time was expired to appoint.
We can appoint one now until whenever.
So we've passed our 45-day deadline, right?
Mr. Churchill, discuss this a little bit.
Well, it's, the statute, says after 45 days it becomes an election, but, I think if you appointed a treasurer, then they could act in the meantime, until they were replaced by the election.
What would that individual sit on the board and vote?
I believe they would,
I don't think.
there
that's
again,
the
it's a
word.
matter of practicality.
I was told at the county level that we will not have a treasurer until May.
I don't know how clear the statute is, it sounds, after 45 days it becomes
I,
an election.
I was
It
told
doesn't say
that
what they do in the meantime.
where we're at right now is we need to notify them, we've exceeded the
You
45
should
days.
notify them.
We need to prepare a letter stating when the treasurer resigned, when we accepted the resignation. We need to prepare a statement stating that we were unable to fulfill that appointment within the 45 days. And then the county clerk will do the call for the vote, and then in May, we will elect the treasurer.
I think you should call, make that motion and send it to the county.
Yes.
I've got a question. Why wasn't the supervisor or the clerk notified of this information?
All you gotta do is pick up the phone and call, that's what I did.
Well, we didn't get no notification on that.
I didn't get a notification either, I picked up the phone and I made a phone call. Just trying to.
Isn't it
I
teamwork?
gave her information to change, the information on the website.
Huh?
I gave her statistics of when she resigned and those things already, she knows.
She
She's
wants
got all that
something-
information.
She wants something, a letter,
She communicates with me
she
a lot.
wants a letter
I'm surprised that
drawn
she
up
didn't
by the
tell me.
supervisor and sent to her.
She's never communicated with the clerk or myself about this. She's communicating with you. That is not the proper channel.
She's communicated with you on various things and you refuse to respond because you don't communicate.
Okay,
Yeah.
Like what specifically?
Like when she wanted information on wages to run the election, you did not even respond to her. As of yet, you have not responded to her. That's a neglect of duty. You can't just ignore her.
I've got the statute 168.
Wow, yeah.
Okay, the Michigan compiled law 168.370 says, if the township board does not make an appointment under subsection 3, or if a vacancy occurs in an elected township office and the vacancy is not filled by the township board or the Board of County Election Commissioners within 45 days after the beginning of the vacancy, the county clerk of the county in which the township is located shall call a special election within 5 calendar days to fill the vacancy. I just think she's looking for, I'm not saying she had to have it or didn't have to have it.
She's
It
not
just
something
says, if it's not been filled within 45 days, the county clerk shall call a special election. So if she's asking for an official resolution from the township, that you have not filled the vacancy, I would give it to the county clerk.
That's what she's asking for,
So
and
if we
then
fill
she
it
can go
tonight, then
off the
if we
book.
fill this tonight, then we don't need to worry about that.
No, we're beyond the 45 days, it's
That's
too
my
late.
understanding, we're too,
That's why I emailed the two of you and wanted a special meeting to give it one more try before we reach the 45-day deadline, and neither one of you responded to schedule a meeting.
Didn't
So
even show
don't
up to the
sit there
first
and
one.
act innocent or stupid.
Oh, my word.
Oh, wow.
We could have got another
You
day.
didn't even show up
Stop slandering
to the
people.
first one.
We didn't even give it a second try. And
Why
we
would you
could've.
give it a second try when all these people came here and wasted their time and you didn't even show up?
I wasn't across
You
this
didn't even
country.
communicate
I
back
was
to
in
us.
Colorado. I was in Colorado.
Where were the
Who
other two?
cares? You should
Who
have told
cares?
your supervisor so we could have rescheduled it and not wasted your community's time.
Let's hold this till the end of the meeting, please. Okay, back on Mrs. Toner.
I think we should appoint a manager. I think that sounds like a pretty good compromise. Someone that can just help us pay our bills. I think that's a reasonable solution for the next 4 months or whatever until May.
How about an interim treasurer?
I think manager sounds appropriate.
Because that way the books can keep rolling. The treasurer's only, or the manager's only gonna sign checks.
That's what we need right now, someone to help pay bills. We're not paying any bills. When was the last time we paid a bill?
4 months ago.
4 months ago?
And we had a special meeting to elect one.
And I did ask Bernadette before the last meeting, to get together and pay bills, and she said, I'm not the treasurer. So a lot of bills that could have been paid at the last meeting were left unpaid.
Excuse me, but I handed you some bills at the last meeting and I'd already signed the checks for it.
Yeah, those got sent out.
So that was, the middle of November was the last time we did it.
Right.
I think the best bet would be to adopt a resolution authorizing the clerk and someone else to sign the checks only if approved by the township board, and to ask the county clerk to call an election to fill the vacancy of treasurer. It's really not that clear, that it sounds like you do lose it after 45 days. You know, I mean, it'd be a wonderful thing if you could just appoint someone, but I think there'd be a question of the legality of it, and so I think the better approach would be a resolution authorizing the clerk and however many other people you want to sign checks. Now, I think you could make the check signed without violating the Open Meetings Act, because the deliberation is at this meeting when you approve the bills, and you wouldn't all have to be together at the same time to sign the checks. And if it gives you comfort, then you could, require all of you to sign the check. I mean, that's a little cumbersome, I'm not saying you have to go that route, but if it gives you comfort, now, you might run into a problem if one person voted against approving the bill, and then signs the check, but if it's approved by the board, it ought to be paid.
If it passed, it passed.
Yeah, it has to pass. So at this point, I think your best bet is to notify the county clerk as soon as possible. And no, the statute doesn't say the township clerk shall send a letter to, it just assumes the knowledge is there, or, you know, a lot of times officials want an official request, so it's just not really in the law one way or the other. So I don't think I can fault anybody for not notifying her, and I can't fault her for saying, give me a resolution. Or him or her, I'm not sure.
Now, is there, if we would possibly go to our bookkeeper, does our audits and stuff like that, all right, or semi-annual audits for to do the interim treasurer's position and hire the bookkeeper
Do you mean a manager maybe?
as maybe a manager.
Maybe call him a manager, because you can do a manager, and they can do anything you authorize them, except what is authorized to somebody else, unless it's consented. It doesn't say consented by who, there's no further to consent. I mean, I wouldn't mind arguing that you gotta pay your bills, and, you know, you took the most careful route you possibly could to do it. So, I'm sorry, I think that's another way to go. But you need a resolution, and you're gonna need a resolution with approved minutes, and that's gonna have to go to the bank, for them to accept a check being signed by someone else,
Other than the clerk, other than the treasurer.
other than the treasurer, the clerk and, someone else. You're gonna need a resolution in the minutes, and you're gonna need to take that to the bank. They might have another resolution form they want you to sign.
How
Maybe.
long does it usually take, when you sit down with the treasurer, how long does this usually take to sign the checks? I mean, is
It wouldn't take long if they're all filled out,
Right, is it a
and you know what
half
they
hour
are,
process, or?
maybe. If you know, depends what you-
Half an hour to an hour
Why don't we
With the
do
amount we
this?
have now, it might be longer.
Do
Yeah.
this,
to get caught up.
we all sign the checks, one person comes in, signs them with the clerk. Half hour later, the next person comes. Half hour later, it's gonna be a 2 hour process
Well,
probably.
we choose one person, I work at the library, you can pop in, when you know you're gonna be there, and sign them. You can sit by yourself and go through it and sign them.
That's
At your
just-
leisure.
if everybody's okay with one person, I'm fine with that.
How about we make a resolution and we have a signature from the clerk and a trustee? Is everybody okay with that?
Would be no different, actually it'd be more for the clerk and the supervisor, but I know being in the same house makes a lot of people uncomfortable.
Yeah,
A lot
just
of people
because of that.
commented on that,
Right,
and
yeah.
I'd rather it be one of the trustees, just.
I understand.
Just for good faith.
Or if it takes 4 signatures, she signs them, I come over, bring them over to you to Ken.
Just so we don't have the violation.
We don't have the
we
form,
can't be
right.
accused of violating the
It's
open
so
meeting.
very convenient where I work in town, and everybody
That's,
gets.
I don't have a
If it
problem
works
with
for you
that, I'll
guys,
come
eh?
to the library and sign it. I'd be fine with that. Do we wanna do all of us, or do we wanna do one person? What's your thoughts on
I
that?
think just one,
Two people.
I
just
think so
two
too.
people total, cause it's gonna get too much of a cluster to try and do everything.
And that person should make sure it was on the list that was approved by the whole board.
Yep, it's on the, be part of the resolution. That's what we don't want to come up with.
Alright, so I resolve,
I'm gonna write it out, and then I'll read it. Resolution.
Greenleaf Township Board of Trustees. Jumping in authorizes trustee, and I'm gonna go with Ken, Mr. Brown, I'm just more comfortable.
She okay?
We were saying, we say clerk, Lauren Missouri, and trustee Ken Brown. To sign township checks.
Township checks. Approve bills. interim,
Until treasurer can be.
right, interim, re-elected treasurer.
So, as the Greenleaf Township Board of Trustees, we resolve to authorize the clerk, Lori Mazur, and trustee Ken Brown to sign township checks to pay approved bills until a treasurer can be elected. Let's take a roll call.
Roll call vote. Ken? Randy?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Ken.
Okay. So we're not gonna do anything then with
Mrs. Toner.
okay, insurance.
So you do have a letter in your packet. Mr. Clever, who was here at the last meeting, got some preliminary information and did some background checking on the resident. And denied us coverage.
He denied us coverage.
Reasoning?
He checked into the township and denied us for insurance. He didn't give up. Too much controversy.
Nay.
Phone number is on there if you care to talk to him.
Found it, yeah.
It was just in your.
Quarter past.
The other thing is auto owners, we have, insurance with them and it's up for renewal, and I just got you a copy of what was sent to that. I think it's $1,600. So, we could add that to the list.
This is not already in the bills that we have.
No, it's not, it would need to be, approved separately.
This is basically what we have, it's just a renewal.
This is all the properties that we have.
Yep. And I think also we put in there was for the cemetery, a little bit of liability in case somebody got injured on the property. No. Well,
I don't even see where it's just talking about one property. It's only showing. Just showing the damn big property, isn't it?
you get some vacant land. Occasion one is basically Floresville property. Floresville property.
All right, now I'm following you.
This building never ever had paying for liability. Never even on
Would you spoke with,
I
and I
spoke with them, they were gonna add that on.
Ah, yeah, and it didn't get on. So we'll have to take this back to them.
It doesn't look like this building got on here.
We'll have to get that adjusted.
Yeah.
Well, in the meantime, we'll explain it like this meeting, so it doesn't need to be approved.
Okay.
Let's approve this.
Whatever the additional cost for this too, if they add this on.
Okay. All right, we gotta put a motion on the floor to put, from auto owners owner's insurance coverage of liability and property coverage on all the township properties, Bay City Forestville Road property, Van Dyke property, and I believe this might be just the landfill. I don't think
The old dump site, I think
liability.
there'd be liability on that.
Right. We need to also, the cemetery is deeded to the township, so we should put a little bit of liability on that, nothing of significance.
How much acreage is it?
I don't know.
I don't think it even belongs to the town.
You don't think it belongs to the township?
You know, there is no property description for any other property but the 4 you read for this township.
Okay.
It was deeded to the township in 1871.
But it probably never got
Then
registered.
it was recently deeded back to the original owners prior to our purchase of it sometime.
Okay. So technically, it's not a township property no more?
There's nothing out of my description.
Let's not worry about that.
Let's not worry about that. I got a fence around it.
You
Nobody's
own-
going in
You
there.
own everything around it, right?
Got half of it.
Half of it?
Property line goes right down the center. Okay, let's not even get out of that. It's not been an issue.
So we got, we have to put on
Somebody gets
quiet
hurt, you're
place.
saying it was on your property.
We're looking to approve the insurance for all of our properties.
I make a motion that we pay the premium for our insurance and also that we add some coverage for this dwelling as
This
well.
one here was,
Yes.
this building has no insurance on it, on this policy, so we're gonna have to add that to it, so.
I wouldn't put much on it, maybe 30,000 or something, but we should have something on it.
She had a, when we talked with her, she had a number put together for the year, that's why I'm surprised it wasn't on here.
Alright,
So the current quote is $17.25 if it's paid in full. You get a discount of $149, brings it down to $15.76.
That's for a year. So, with that said, you wanna
I'll
put a motion?
second that motion.
Oh, you made a motion, okay.
yep,
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor?
alright.
Aye.
The BSNA tax and assessing software and computer, we have to bring that up again. That's for the treasurer.
Back in November, we pretty much agreed we were gonna do it, but just hold off.
Yep.
Just to remind everybody, the software upgrade is $5,510. And I think there's an annual maintenance service upgrades of $1,100.
Is there any way we can put this off a little bit? We got attorney fees eating us up right now.
I don't see why we couldn't, we're not.
We don't do it.
They're okay.
Well, that's true. I say we take, I'm, we
I would
table
maybe
this.
we could put it in the new fiscal year.
But didn't Todd say we
It's
should,
not here.
Todd,
in order to get it all going, we
it
should,
works well with Todd, and then to layer the maps
The
and stuff.
treasurer needs to have,
We're not even gonna have a treasurer till May at the earliest, so.
half of that was for an assessing program and half was for a tax program.
Part of that would have been for Todd.
right? What I was saying is I thought Todd said we should vote on it in January and then get it installed and implemented, cause that'll take X amount of time, so it's ready to go. Do you wanna wait 2 more months, or should we do it now?
We're gonna have to, you know, as long as it's in this year, because if last year, if we would've voted on it in November, then we would've had a service fee for last year and then again for this year. This way we're gonna have this year, so the sooner we get it in this fiscal year, for this year, we're
React.
Yeah.
don't have all the numbers to put together right now. We'll put them all together.
It's like $5,500.
Plus, we gotta buy a upgraded computer to run it.
Not, Todd's will handle it.
Todd's would, but for the treasurer.
Treasurer, yeah.
things are.
Right.
But once they come in, we'd have to get it installed and.
Well, we could approve it and maybe Todd would just get his upgrade. Currently.
A lot of money.
Unnecessary.
Just spend that much extra cost lately.
But you're gonna have to have no matter what.
Yeah, that's what we're saying.
I thought we had that conversation with Todd, and I thought he recommended that we approve it in January,
Right.
so that we could get it in place. That's what I remember.
He suggested the board purchase a software before the new fiscal year begins.
We would be able to do so next month, or in 2 weeks. For the next fiscal year.
If we could put this off, I'd like to put it off and see where we're at here before we go spending this much. We've got a lot of stuff we weren't planning on.
Let's table it then for next time.
Table it for March.
Yep.
The GIS mapping and county equalization.
That same thing, we've been putting this off for a while. It's at 900.
This isn't something that we really have to do though, right? This is something more that would be more of a convenience thing.
I think it's convenient for the assessor possibly.
Right.
Yeah.
He might have access to more than what a normal person would have.
Right. Yeah, you would benefit the most from that.
It was
Right.
948, I'm not sure.
$1,000.
Yeah.
Let's put that one off.
I think we better table that one too.
Todd's handling it just fine the way he is.
Yep.
That's why he gets paid the big bucks.
Anything else?
Are we tabling that for March?
Let's just table it, but I don't know if we're gonna do it or not.
Well,
I guess we can talk about it again.
I actually think we should, make a motion on tabling the estimate software.
And the GIS mapping.
We make a motion that we table the BS&A software and also the GIS mapping until the next meeting.
10 seconds. All in favor?
I,
Any other old business?
I did get, from Catherine Muter, she had a draft of the zoning administrator job description. I didn't have time to make copies for tonight, but I will get that to you, 'cause I know,
I'll
we
take
really
it.
need to work on that and get things in place so we can, we have an applicant, I think he's here tonight and still interested, so,
No, I'd like to withdraw my name.
Okay.
okay, thank you, Mr. Daniels. Still something.
Right, we still need to get a job description, a good job description for our zoning.
that would help.
New business. Got we got a letter of resignation from Catherine Muter from off the planning commission.
Just read it.
Due to health issues, I am unable to perform my duties and standards to the standards the residents of Greenleaf Township would expect, which includes deputy clerk, secretary of the board of review, and secretary of the planning commission. Please accept my resignation immediately for all 3 positions. And then, from Mr. Tim Kramer, I'm writing to formally to notify you that I'm resigning my position in Greenleaf Township Planning Commission for personal reasons effective immediately. I appreciate the opportunities I had in the short time of being with the group.
So I move that we, accept Catherine Mueller's letter of resignation.
A second.
All in favor?
I,
Motion, put a motion that we accept Tim Kramer's resignation.
second.
All in favor?
I,
I'm got some more names to appoint for a planning commission. One seat with the term expiring 1/1/18, Norm Parker, and one seat, term expiring 1/1/17, Jason Osentoski.
So this would make 6 and 7.
Yeah. Replace the two that resigned.
But when we went from 9 to 7, that was never approved though.
We need to go back to 9, we have to do public hearings and a lot of stuff.
Right, but I think we formally should have board approved this going back to the 7, we didn't do that.
It was never official because of the way it was handled, it was never we never officially legally made it a 9,
Then
it
we
was always
probably,
still a 7.
and then we probably need to reappoint all those people if it wasn't official, is what I'm saying.
Mr. Churchill, yeah, do you understand that?
Well, I'm not sure I totally do, but I know that the County Meeting Act says it can be a board of 5, 7, and 9.
Right.
And it doesn't really make clear determine that. Sometimes there's bylaws for a planning commission, and that would probably, if approved by the township board, if the zoning ordinance states, but I don't think it does, so I think it would either be a resolution or just how many you actually appoint. If you have,
Well, with,
people appointed and it's approved, then I think that's another way to expand it, barring a zoning ordinance provision or bylaws that are approved by the board.
The zoning ordinance states it'll be a board of 5 or 7.
Then it should be 5 or 7.
all right, but what we did was
What the board approved was a 9-member board.
we approved
for
9,
minutes.
and then we went back to 7, but then that was never board
Because
approved.
to go to a 9, we have to have public hearings, so there's a bunch of procedures we need to go
I
through, which we did
understand
not
that,
do. So
right.
it's not officially a 9-member board.
I would say it's 7 unless you amend the ordinance.
Right. We
Okay.
would have to, that all.
But when we appointed the 9, the board approved the 9, but then we went back to 7 and did not make any further approval.
I'd say it sounds like a 7-person board if that's what the ordinance says. I mean,
But
that there was
the
9
only,
is
but
kind of,
the reason we went to a 9 is because there was a compromise in keeping some of our veteran people on that board. And then some of those people were taken back off the board.
well, I would go by the zoning ordinance number. If the zoning ordinance says 5 or 7, then it should be 5 or 7. If you wanna change it, you should amend the ordinance.
Let's see what Keith's got to say.
I think that I would like to see Mr. Cleveland and Greg Guzzo on this board. They're familiar with it, they went through it for years with us.
I fully understand that, Keith.
We work together, we've done a lot of great work. And, it's just Ken and I is all that's there, with any familiarity.
Now, I got another comment, and this goes into, from public seats and doing our job, to businesses everywhere. If you stepped away today, somebody should be able to sit down in that seat and continue tomorrow, and it doesn't matter who. So if you guys are doing your job properly and all the documentation is correct, anybody should be able to come in there and sit down and continue on.
You don't do that in history.
No job does that. No job I've done that.
Every job I worked at, you had to have a backup for yourself. When I was in Beijing, I was getting phone calls from Germany for my backup, to make sure things are going right. It's just what in business you do. And if your job is being done correctly, when I get, if I'm elected out, the next supervisor coming in should be able to pick up that paperwork and say, continue right on. There's laws and rules we follow, and we need to follow them. And it's all in writing.
I agree.
Yeah.
And it also says in writing not to replace more than 30% of that board at one time. You're flirting with disaster by getting rid of all your veterans.
There's still two veterans on the board.
And you have some other ones that wanna be on the board.
There's 10 applicants names came in. So, which has never, this is the first time we put it out to the public, because it's always stayed here. Nobody's ever gone and put it in the newspaper that we were looking for applicants.
You wanna put 5 brand new ones on this year.
Their terms are up.
It states in one of these books somewhere here.
I got the current one, and it does not state.
Listen. We have a 7-member board. I sit on this board too. One
Correct.
person off this
Yes,
board sits on it.
that's,
So that leaves 6 other people. State somewhere in there that you replace 1/3 of that board.
it does not state that here anywhere.
And I even read where if
You bring it in
you
and I'll
fall
read it.
into a situation where
You bring it in and show it to me, I'll read it.
people's terms expire, at the same time you extend,
It does not
The
say that
terms-
nowhere in here.
you extend the terms so that you're only putting 1/3 of your board on new.
No, it doesn't.
at
Black
any
and
given
white,
time.
Ken, black and white.
Black and white.
Let's,
Show
you
me
bring it in
black
and
white.
we'll read it.
I'll bring it in.
I would suggest it may be in the planning and enabling
Go
act.
ahead.
All right, well, I think the member of the audience, yes, 13.01 of the zoning ordinance, and I don't see any amendment to that, does say, the planning commission shall consist of between 5 and 7 members appointed by the township supervisor with the approval of the township board. Okay, now, if you want to amend that, you gotta do it by ordinance, because you can't amend an ordinance by resolution. So right now, it's 5 and 7, and it's determined by who gets appointed and who gets approved. Okay, now, with regard to the staggering, there is language in the Michigan Planning Enabling Act that addresses that, and it is good to stagger. I don't see anything in the zoning ordinance that addresses staggering, but of the members first appointed, they're supposed to be staggered. But then they serve until they're replaced. So it's a wonderful thing to stagger, but if you haven't kept up with it, then you can't do it. I mean, the only way to do it is to do it by, if somebody didn't get reappointed, if there wasn't a reappointment when somebody's term expired, and everybody's terms expired, then I think you make all the appointments by the supervisor, approval of the township board, but you should still have different terms according to the first one.
We have,
So it will be staggered going forward,
yes.
but in order to stagger it, you gotta keep on top of it.
Right.
If you haven't kept on top of it, and everybody's term has expired, then you need to make no appointments. That's my opinion.
And that's the hand that was dealt to me was.
With the supervisor, but with approval of the board.
How could these all expire at the same period when every year for the last, I don't know how long, 2 new members were appointed?
The previous supervisor did not continue.
And as a planning commission member, you should be keeping track of yourselves too, a little bit. Bringing that to attention.
Yeah, bringing it to the supervisor's attention, say, hey, you know, Greg's fallen off, can we reappoint him, or, but nobody did that. So what happened is, when I came on, there was people that were expired for 2 years, a year, and they were still sitting on the board, just, but their term was done a year and a half prior to that, they were still sitting on the board. That's what happened, that's why it seems like this, such an abrupt. Now, from here on, if you notice, we put everybody at different lengths of term, so then it'll be staggered.
And they're in the minutes, and it's kept track of.
But what are you gonna do? You just appointed 5 new members. They're all gonna expire at the same time.
No, we staggered them.
When we,
Look at the paper you
They are
got.
staggered.
It's staggered.
I gave my.
I understand all that, but why take the veteran people that still wanna be on the board and kick them to the curb? That's my problem.
I'm saying we just.
Cause he made a comment, they're too old.
They're too old, yeah.
My comment is, it's trying to have a more diversified board. I would like.
That don't sound like old.
Is it?
I would like to see
Save it for later.
a diversified board. I wanna see some younger people get involved in here, coming in and get involved with the township, because the young people are gonna be here, hopefully, for 50, 60 years from now. And they want that township going towards the way what they would like to see in the future. I'm only gonna be here another 20 years. It doesn't, there's not that much great difference for me. So these younger generations need to come and be part of it.
So have you advertised again for people to apply for the vacancies now on the planning commission? I
We
haven't
have-
seen
we still
any
have people.
advertisement.
There was 10 the last time we did.
So this is a backlog, but you don't know who might have not heard that it before, they might be interested
Yeah.
now.
It's my choice.
Well, I would say this, back to the staggering. It doesn't say you can't appoint them all at once, it just says the first ones, there's a 1-year term, 2-year term, and 3-year term. So if you stay up with it, it staggers and that's great, but it doesn't say you can't appoint a bunch at once, okay? Now, it is supposed to be diverse. However, the diversity is defined as representative of important segments of the community. This is from the Michigan Planning Enabling Act, such as the economic, governmental, educational, and social development of the local unit of government in accordance with the major interests as they exist in the local unit of government, such as agricultural, natural resources, recreation, education, public health, government, transportation, industry, and commerce. The membership shall also be representative of the entire territory of the local unit of government to the extent practicable. However, it doesn't say age, and I would be cautious about age because of age discrimination. So I don't think age is really the right factor, but diversity is, but not, I don't think by age.
How about experience?
Well, I would say,
No.
I'm not gonna say that for experience, I think a person's experience has to come into play.
That doesn't count.
Can't say that doesn't
It
count.
doesn't, it never said it didn't count, but you gotta have,
I think
How
experience
is-
is more, yeah.
if we got a whole board that's been on here for 25 years, how does anybody else come in and get experience? You gotta bring some of the younger generation in and bring them up.
Bring in a few at a time, that's the proper way to do it.
Well, that's what it should have been done, but that was
You
what I
had
was
the
about.
opportunity to do that. You chose not to do that.
So I move that we.
Purposely chose to take the experience and kick them out. You chose to do
If
that.
somebody else was doing their job in the previous years, it wouldn't have been like that.
That's beside the point.
Oh, it's
There's no
beside the point.
There's no beside the point.
He had the opportunity to leave a veteran crew intact and bring in a couple of new people. That's the proper way to do it.
That's the way it should have been if somebody was doing their job,
And
and he didn't.
He didn't do his job
He's
because
doing his
he's the
job.
I'm doing
one,
my job.
No.
That's
Yes,
why-
he is,
you
by
don't
the
like
law.
way I'm doing my job. That is not an
because
issue.
you're not doing it the proper way.
Your proper way.
I'm doing it by the book.
You bring in a couple new people and you keep a veteran board. That's the proper way to do it. If you're gonna sit and argue with that, go ahead. You're gonna look like an idiot.
Oh, come on now.
You got that recorded? I love that.
Also,
Now,
excuse me, it's
But
the,
Nikki's still here.
it's time, yeah.
it's the clerk's job to keep track of all those things. She should have been before, keeping track of who needs to be replaced. That's her job.
Why should it be her job? It's the
She's the
people's
clerk.
job.
No, she's the
It
clerk.
was written down and she
It was
has
also
track
the
of it.
clerk's job to keep a general ledger.
It's also the clerk's job to say, okay, this is on the agenda, we need to appoint,
The supervisor writes the agenda.
okay?
So I moved that we
So the
appoint
supervisor,
Norm Parker.
previous supervisor never updated the planning commission members, never appointed them or re-established them in. And when I came in, there was terms that were expired for 2 or 3 years.
Move on.
I moved that we appoint Norm Parker to the planning commission seat, term expiring of January 1st of 2018. And we need to do a roll call vote.
Was that your appointment then?
One of them, yes.
And therefore now it's a question of whether it's being approved.
Correct.
And
And I
they
second that.
really need to have a good reason to not approve it, that's my understanding.
Before we vote on these, is Jason Osentowski here tonight?
Right here.
Could you give us a little of your background? I don't believe I know you.
Well, I actually grew up Ubly area. My grandparents have lived there since the early 1900s. I actually lived in Midland for a few years and just came back to actually the Cass City area, Greenleaf Township. Been here over a little over 5 years. Bought a house, the old Bob and Dorothy Schmidt house, and I work at Walboro. Yeah. Is there any particular questions you'd like to know, or?
Just, I wasn't familiar, I don't believe we
Yep.
met.
Oh,
just
no,
wasn't-
no.
I wasn't familiar with you, I just wanted a little background.
Oh, no problem. Yep.
Roll call vote. Norm Parker, aye. Ken,
Nay.
Nay.
Aye.
So the two not confirmed. Needs to be confirmed by a majority vote.
There should be a legitimate reason for them to decline.
It can be any reason they want, I mean, it just has to be approved or it's not approved, I mean, they
I
can
think
express
we know how we
reasons
feel
or
about
not.
it. That's reason enough. I feel that we need to keep as much experience. If we have people willing to do it and they have experience, I think
What
we
about
need to
Norm
stick with
Parker,
that.
he's willing to
Do it, and he's been coming to the meetings and he's been part of this community his entire life.
I told you, I would feel better if we just brought in
Can I say something
a
here?
few new
Yes.
people at a time.
Norm, you may.
I'm all for respect to the people that's been working and doing all this, but when you come to the point where you said they should be staggered, these gentlemen, to me, look like they're all getting on in years. What if they all pass, God forbid, in the same year? So then we gotta appoint a whole new crew.
There you go.
Excuse me, but there was a motion on the floor and it was passed, and are we back to discussion after the motion?
It's just my opinion.
The person we were talking about wanted to put opinion, that's.
It's just my
That's right.
opinion.
Getting late.
So I move that we appoint Jason Osentowski to the planning commission seat, term expiring January 1st of 2018 now. 2018.
That would satisfy me a lot more, because I would like to see some different age groups in there, just because they're.
Roll call on it.
I second it. Ken?
Yes.
Randy?
Jason seems like a good guy, sure.
Yes.
Yes.
Is he
Okay.
over 17 or 18?
Do you want another name?
This was a-
Then what I will do then is put Keith Mitchell in for a seat. Is his term, would it expired? Is it expired? Because he took over Mr. Cleveland's seat, and that expired for the first of the year, so reappoint Keith Mitchell for, till 2017.
Only 1 year term or 2 year term?
January first of
2017, 1 year.
Who's the seventh person?
We will, determine that later.
We have to approve.
Right.
Did you make a motion?
Yeah, to put Keith in for it, yeah. Ken?
He said,
You second it. Ken, yes.
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 You didn't know it.
Let's move on. Wage review. Kinda looking at a little bit of the budget that we could look at. I don't, see any, where we can do any changes there.
I actually have one comment. I'm fine with everything, but the zoning administrator gets paid a salary, and he was getting paid to come to every board meeting, in addition, and it added up. So I'm moving that, when we do a new zoning administrator job description, coming to the meetings is part of the job. And that we strike the meeting per diem.
What are we paying our zoning? What are we paying our zoning administrator?
It's right here.
Currently, we're paying Keith Mitchell $200 a month. Previously, it was $4,500 annual salary, plus $75 per meeting, so he would come to a planning commission meeting and a board meeting, and it would.
And he even got a salary on top of that. So he was getting paid 3 times for, he was getting paid.
Yeah.
And from what I've heard and asking around, 4,500 salary for zoning administrator is actually very high around here, but,
If we're gonna make a change, let's do it now before we put a new one in.
I have not much issues with the $4,500 for salary,
Right.
but I did have an issue with getting paid extra for coming to the meetings, because that's part of the job.
I think it should be,
Just the $4,500, so strike out the extra.
how much did that come to if we were paying for the extra meetings? What,
Every board meetings, an annual meeting, 6 regular planning commission meetings, and then extra.
12 times 75?
So we're looking at another.
We're gonna get a zoning administrator.
We are working, currently we have a, job description written. We just need to sit down with Ken and see if he approves of it. And then we'll bring it to the board meeting and approve of the job description at a meeting. And then from there, we will work at giving any applicants a chance to read that, see if they will be satisfied with that.
Can it be done by the next meeting?
No, because the next meeting we'll have to be able to approve it at a meeting.
Right,
We
can it be
can't-
done then?
Then we'll start looking for, that'll be the next step, yes.
do you have anybody interested?
Well,
As
as of right now, I knew Mr. Gouza and Mr. Daniels, but Mr. Daniels just rescinded his, so. We looked at
didn't
Mr.
think
Gouza.
Greg was interested anymore either, so.
Well, maybe with a good job description, he might be interested.
We need to, see if we can stir up some interest in that.
Yeah.
between now
Does it
and
have
then.
to be somebody from the township? Can it
No,
just be
No, it
outside?
doesn't.
Actually, we could actually talk to like Evergreen Townships or Austin Townships. So,
Job share maybe.
in job share, yes. You know, there's always, it does not have to be a resident of the township.
I just wanted to say this about the wage. For $4,500, if we paid 12 meetings at $75, that'd be an additional $900, so that'd be $5,400.
Plus the
What?
annual meeting.
Plus annual meeting.
What I'm saying is instead of reducing it by that much, maybe make it a $5,000 wage,
Well, let me tell you what,
or not, you don't think so?
let me tell you what I was told too. In the past, I had trouble getting zoning administrators to show up for the meeting.
You know, that's okay, but put stuff in writing, make reports and send it along.
You know, and that's the reason they started paying the meetings.
Probably.
And I don't know how many years ago this would have been.
That'll come in when we do the job description, we'll put that in, it'll be part of the job, it'll be part of the job description.
But I think that is the reason they started paying the zone, and this was years ago, they started paying the zoning administrator to show up at meetings as an incentive.
And he does not have to show up if he has his paperwork and is doing his job correctly.
You can,
Well, I think it should be a
report, don't you
requirement.
want a report
Well,
at each meeting?
being that the zoning administrator works with the planning commission, the planning commission he would report to the planning commission and bring that to whoever, like, for right now, it's Ken would bring it to this group. You know, because he would get the report to Ken at the planning commission.
So I move that everything on the wage review stays the same with the exception of removing the per board meeting, per diem for the zoning administrator.
I second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Haven't put a bids out on that because we're not able to currently pay anybody to do that. So that's why I did not do that. I would hate to put bids out and then we're not able to pay them.
Just for the record, somebody has been taking care of it,
Yeah,
so.
thank you. And I was going to plow this out. I came up the other day with my plow and it was done. So
That's volunteer, right?
I guess.
March board of review.
Oh, yes. There will be an organizational meeting on March 7th at 5 p.m. And that is mainly just for the Board of Review Board. And the Board of Review officially will start on March 15th, which is a Tuesday, from 9 to 1, and again from 2 to 4. In the morning session, the assessor will be present at 9 to 1. And then on Wednesday, March 16th, from 2 to 5, and 6 to 9 p.m. And the assessor will be at the later session from 6 to 9. And that usually is also printed on your assessments in the county mail.
Okay. Agreement for the database management in Brenton, 2016.
This is pretty routine for this board. We agreed to this as far as long as I've been on the board. What it is they print the tax bills and the assessment bills, and they do the data management for that also.
Yes. Yeah.
How much is that? This,
It's not really, it depends on how many bills you
Bills
are
they-
printing.
We got 1,000 or 50 or, that's per.
It's built into the treasurer's
so
expenses.
just
and that's
stay
what
with the same people, what it is.
It's the county.
It's the county.
They either do it or you do it yourself, and I don't think we're capable of that right now.
Proper printers and stuff for that.
No.
So I move that we approve the 2016 agreement for database management and
lit the fire today, it's a little under 20% here. And we got a meeting in February and we got the board review, so it's not gonna last that long.
Correct.
You can pay now.
When we're now, we're able to pay, we can fill it. I was gonna have it filled, but we weren't able to pay, so I wasn't even gonna bother calling. Okay,
So currently, we're on every third Thursday of the odd months for the board.
That's
I'm fine with that.
I think keep it the way it
Seems
is.
to work for everyone.
And the annual meeting should be the last Saturday of March. And that actually works out good, you have like a week breather in there, it's not back to back.
What time is it on Saturday?
We've been doing it at 1, but we can change that.
I think 1 o'clock is good. Do we wanna announce what those dates are for the year, or what do we do?
Do you have the calendar in front of you?
Do
We should. January 21st, March.
we have to put it in the paper and we have to.
March 17th
Post it.
is the third Thursday.
Hey, what's the last Saturday of March?
Last Saturday in March is the 26th. And that puts us at May 20th. No, I'm sorry, I was looking at Friday. May 19th, I'm sorry about that. July 21st. September 15th. And then November 17th. Unless I screwed up.
What was,
So we need to do a roll call vote on this. As a resolution, so we resolve that, we continue to hold our board of trustee regular meetings the third Thursday of the odd months for 2016. Those being January 21st, March 17th, May 19th, July 21st, September 15th, and November 17th. Are we still sticking with 7 PM?
Yep.
At 7 PM? With our annual meeting being held the 26th of March?
Yes. Yes, 26th.
At 1 PM.
Yep.
Do we have a second?
I second that.
Ken? Yeah. Randy?
Yes. Yes.
Aye.
Okay.
Carried. Did the planning commission make a decision on their dates?
we did,
Do you want to speak to it? I don't know.
I think we probably need to determine that at our next meeting, the planning commission meeting.
If we're gonna post, we need to post this in the paper, so we
I
need,
think they need to be posted
Okay, I
in
think-
January.
We'll probably stick to the even months, third Thursday.
Well,
Do you have any members here maybe to pull on quick?
are you both in favor of keeping your planning commission dates every other month, same time?
Whatever the other people want.
Okay,
What do you think, Kevin, are you good with that?
you okay?
Who else is here yet?
Shake your hand.
I think Grant.
Grant.
He had to go to work.
He left.
So,
Okay, Reader left too. That's 3.
Your duties?
Jason,
What about Jason? Yeah.
I agree.
You're good?
I'm good.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
right,
There
you're
you
not
go.
here now.
That makes 4 right there.
That's a.
okay, so,
So you wanna
Just-
go,
same thing, that just said, absent months.
Okay.
you want me to read through them? No?
Um,
Or you wanna do it?
I'm not even sure if we should be voting on it.
Well,
before you vote.
Yeah, I don't know, you just thought
I
you
guess we
wanted
are,
to.
Well-
notice, I mean, the
makes sense to list it in the paper, you know, because it's gotta be listed in the paper, and they won't have a meeting by that time, so.
Here.
So.
Alright, so the third Thursday in February, that is the 18th. That is April 21st. June 16th. August 18th. October 20th. And then December 15th. Well, this is a special meeting.
Special meetings, yeah, right, yeah. Regular meeting, no.
Right. I think we just did.
Yeah, I think that's good.
We'll approve it because it is, you know, everything that goes on with it. So we resolve for the planning commission to continue to hold their regular meetings the third Thursday of the even months at 7 p.m. Those being February 18th, April 21st, June 16th, August 18th, October 20th, and December 15th of 2016. Second.
Who seconded that? Ken? Randy?
Aye.
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 Anything more under other?
Yes, aye.
You got anything under others?
Nope.
Yes, we've got some interest in that property on 53. I'm sure interested in purchasing it.
I think that's,
Ken,
but, yeah.
in, with elsewhere.
They went
They
elsewhere?
already
Yes.
went somewhere else.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
And that would actually have to start out with the planning commission and work its way, once you guys have that, you know, down at the planning commission level, it would then come to this board. Public comment? Norm?
Randy, why did you not vote me on the planning commission? Did you ask me why? Did you tell me why?
I stated earlier, I just would like to see more experience kept on the board as much as possible.
Yes.
Who is our auditor, who audits the township books?
Anderson, Tucky out of Cass City.
When are they going to be at a meeting to,
We get audited every 2 years,
okay,
and this conclusion of this year will be an audit year, and it usually is done kind of during the summer.
okay, so it'll be next summer? when they
March
report to the
31st will end
township?
our
Okay.
second year,
Okay,
and then,
this summer,
yes, this summer.
okay, thank you.
We do file yearly with the state of Michigan, like kind of an interim report,
Okay,
but annual, it's a 2-year audit.
okay.
Oh, I have one other thing too. We have to file something with the IRS, don't we? That the treasurer always took care of. We need to make arrangements.
We discussed this briefly on the phone the other day. What are your thoughts on that?
IRS filings, you should just make them no matter who signs it. The IRS wants that filed, whatever it is, and they don't care who signs it. So, for example, an estate, you can file for an estate even if it's not determined by the board. So I would just get it done, and if the wrong person signs it, the wrong person signs it. It should be filed.
We don't have the documentation to do it.
Is that because it's with the treasurer?
Correct.
There was the statute says, and that the treasurer shall turn over the books and records upon order from the township board. And maybe if you pass the resolution as a board and use the word order, maybe that would encourage her to do that. But would the auditors be in position to do that for you, to do the paperwork necessary?
I would have to research that.
I mean, it seems like they might not be able to sign it, but they can do it.
But it's filed electronically.
Okay, well, who's qualified to do that? The auditor,
I've done
right?
it before, an auditor could do it.
You just need the information, right?
Correct.
And have you asked for the information
Not
from the
personally,
former treasurer?
not personally, no.
I would pass a resolution ordering the township treasurer to turn over those records to the clerk
Probably if you just ask her, she would
or
probably.
answer. I just know that if she wants.
She hasn't been formally asked, so she just held on to it.
Yeah, all I'm saying is the statute says upon order of the township board, so that's why I use the term order.
She'll cooperate with you.
I'm not even familiar with what it is that I wonder if she would be willing to fill that out and we could sign it and send it in.
I'm capable of doing it.
I mean, if you know what it is, I don't even know, I just know it's something to, okay, all right.
I'm sure she has all the information, if she's done it, she has to pass it along.
I'll get it from Bernadette
Passwords.
and I'll give it to you.
Make sure you get the passwords and
Bring it to her when you go to sign the checks. There you go.
You know, when you're gonna
I
do the
would like
checks.
something official in the minutes, so just,
Saying that she's
you
gonna
know, on
be,
his advice. Resolution,
we're gonna do a
or a
resolution.
request.
A resolution asking the clerk to file the 41 forms with the IRS.
No, I'm saying get the
Get
documents
the
to
stuff
us.
back.
Request it back,
Yeah.
that's fine too.
Make the motion that
We'll
trustee Ken Brown will stop and see the previous treasurer and
Bring all the documents.
Request it.
Request in order.
gather her records and checkbook, I guess.
All records,
Yeah.
Yes.
and bring them,
There's boxes of them.
Come on, we'll just have to get the space for them, that's all.
go ahead and make your motion.
I think I just said it.
I'll second that,
Repeat it.
so she can write it out.
Make a motion that trustee Ken Brown pays a visit to Bernadette King, the previous treasurer, and takes into his possession the records and
How much truck am I gonna need
Checkbook.
for this?
a truck. Within the next,
Even if you can get him here, I mean, you took him here, you have a key, right?
No,
I don't have a key. I'll have to use yours.
when Greg changed the locks, I never got a key again.
Does he have a key? Jerry Cleveland or somebody has a key.
Somebody got here today
Well,
before me and turned the key on.
Do you want them here, do you want me to bring them to the library when we need, or?
That would be fine, but I just didn't want.
Got
you don't want all the records at the library.
Depends how many there are.
There's boxes of them. She's got boxes.
Yeah, I got them in there.
Okay, we don't do that.
So you better keep
So
it one more
trustee
time.
Ken Brown will request on order of the township board. No? Request from Bernadette King. I don't remember what it said.
Records and the checkbook.
So I got another question. Randy, why did you vote for the young man here that's only been in this community about 3 years? You said you wanted experience, but you voted for a man with 3 years, and I've been here for 30 years. Can you explain that?
He's got a point.
You just don't like me, or?
No, listen.
He doesn't have to answer.
There was two names there, and as a compromise, we selected one.
I see.
So it's just simple and nothing personal.
I see.
So, yes.
Okay, second that.
Randy,
All in favor?
Ronnie,
Yes.
I just got Has anything been done with that lawsuit with Langenberg, seeing how he doesn't even live across the road there for
yes.
anymore?
Mr. Churchill will elaborate on that a little bit more. It's been taken care of. It's sitting with Mr. Langenberg's attorney.
Uh-huh,
Our end of it has been taken care of.
okay, okay.
It's been taken care of months and months ago. It's sitting there, they have not acted, they've not sent us a bill. So the longer, I believe the longer they sit there without wanting any money from us, the better, because that keeps us from having to pay them.
Right. Under the circumstances, they probably won't.
Yeah.
And then I have one more question. Have you or the clerk gotten any bids or even thought about the bids for the road grinding?
That we'll bring it up at the next meeting, March.
Usually take care of that at the annual meeting, so we need to get bids before the annual meeting.
Yeah.
What's going on with the new building? Anything new?
The planning commission hasn't brought it up, so.
Cause I can tell you that I did some research on my own, and I talked to Art Severance, and talked to, Aaron LaPonze about their Evergreen Township Hall, which is about, probably 24 by 32, somewhere in there. Anyway, to make a long story short, they built it for $110,000 20 years ago. And Booms Construction said that they could build the same building now for about $150,000. And I asked them about utilities and, upkeep on it, and they said the utilities on that building, summer and winter, average $100 a month. And he also said to remodel this warehouse up here, $50 a square foot. So you're talking, if you're gonna remodel the whole 10,000 square foot, you got $500,000.
What portion of it would need to be remodeled? I'm confused.
Why did you buy it if you're not gonna remodel and use all of it then?
There's already offices that are finished,
But I'm asking you, why did you
little
buy the whole thing if you wasn't gonna use the whole thing? Is it a good spot to pull your trucks in the winter and change oil and maybe put some janitorial supplies?
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, why did you buy it then?
The idea was, and we've said this many times, is if we could all agree on something, we could use the big part of that building and possibly generate some income.
Like a state police outpost?
No.
I don't think
No,
that was
party
ever mentioned.
place. Oh, yes, it was.
So my question is, why did you buy it if you didn't have it all planned out? You're on the planning commission. Wait, I'm not done yet, I got the floor. When we could have built a brand new one.
Where?
On the 22 acres.
Well, you said you got 40 acres someplace, right?
22.
That hundred and some thousand that you just said is just for the building?
That's
What about
complete.
architecture and all the rest of the stuff?
You're not,
Turn lanes.
we only paid $23 a square foot for that building. We were not gonna build anything
Parking lot.
cheaper than that. That building was a good price.
Let me.
What are you gonna do with it?
I just told you, should we even get into it, to get into the offices? That would be a start.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I got this in the mail today, or yesterday, and it said that, let's see. Let me see here. Oh, Judy Keller wants to be the township clerk, and it said she's a team player, and she's willing and able to work with all board members, but she's got a whole paragraph of
I
things.
didn't write that other letter,
She's got a whole paragraph attacking the township supervisor.
but I didn't write
So
the
my-
other letter.
My concern is, how can she be willing to work when she's attacking the township
She just said she
supervisor?
didn't write it.
Well, how
Why
do
is
you
it
do that?
together?
I didn't write the letter. It was just happened to be mailed together, I never even read the other letter.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Of
Oh, you're
course,
calling me a liar, Christine? Were you there? Kimberly
All
told
right,
were
let's
you
adjourn the
there?
meeting, huh?
Were you there? Were you there?
May I speak?
No, you can't speak because you don't let
All right,
anybody else
calm down.
I will not be called a liar by you people in this
Jody,
hall.
calm down,
And he-
please.
No, I will not calm down. I will not calm down. I will not be called a liar by this group of people. No, yes you did. Yes, you did. You said to
Why are you
him,
so
no.
angry?
Why am I angry? Because I am tired of the way you people want to railroad everybody into what you want to think. And you know that's true. And I can prove you guys railroaded Bernadette out. You just asked Mr. Ron how he was going off in the bank one day, so happy that you guys railroaded Bernadette Kane out of this office.
I wasn't.
Don't you even look like that.
What?
Don't you even look like that.
I never said
Because I
anything.
can prove it that you did.
I never said anything about Bernadette King.
Enough! Sit down and
No,
let's
I'm
keep
not
moving
gonna
on.
say enough.
So what
I
are
did not write that other letter.
so what are we gonna do with the rest? Have you got a progress report on, planning of that building then? You
We
got,
can't make any progress because for number one, we tried to have a meeting there to show it to everybody, and the good folks here spent $900 in attorney fees to block a meeting in that building.
Right, 'cause it wasn't approved.
Yes. Yeah,
Lawsuits, how? How are we gonna get sued?
I think Mr. Brown made the right point, how much money we spend on legal fees. It's
I have
kind
a
of
question.
bull.
I have a question. I actually have this question for
There
Mr.
we
Churchill,
go.
our township lawyer.
Okay,
Is that okay? Or,
you wanna ask me?
It's
and I'll
up to
ask
him
you,
if he
or-
wants to help us out here. It's a circus, so welcome.
well, I did a FOIA request, and everybody seems, these two gentlemen seem to complain about township attorney fees. And as I look over this invoice, Mr. Churchill's office apparently is very good at putting who made a phone call and who a meeting was with. Those people are in here. But when we get down to this one, it says research on the cell tower issue and whether special use permit is required even if zoning administrator has approved the plan. $487.50 for that. And what's interesting is there's no name who made that call, when all they had to do was look at the ordinances for free. Another $150 additional research on cell tower issue. So you know what? Shame on you for making it look like it's all the people who are trying to do things right in this township and by the law, when you guys sit there and somebody's using some attorney fees and the attorney's protecting someone. Because they're not.
Now the attorneys are liars.
Why wasn't it on here, but it's on every other one? Who's he trying to protect?
It's a
And it's costing
conspiracy.
us $600 for that.
Christina, it's a conspiracy.
Is it?
Call the Inquirer.
Really? Let me ask you another question. Why did Mr. Mitchell and Mr. Cleveland think that they could go to someone's house, a neighbor's house, and question the integrity of a planning commission member? That's bullying, that's harassment. And this seems like this is what this
That's
township.
what you guys are doing.
Oh, no.
my gosh.
Ask Mr. Mitchell why he sat out in front of my house for 15 minutes. Me? Yes, you. My husband witnessed it. And like, you just sat there in front of my driveway?
I've never seen.
That's intimidation, that's harassment.
I've never seen.
All right.
I have
All right.
never done that to
Let's
anyone.
settle down.
You lied again.
I really don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, you lied. Yeah.
If
She
that
doesn't
were
say
true,
everybody
he would've
else,
got-
she's just spearheading people.
I'm not gonna say it. Let's
I put a
adjourn the
motion
meeting.
on the table to adjourn.
Whoa, whoa,
I second.
whoa, whoa, I got a question, sir.
Okay.
Before you adjourn this meeting, or this harassment, whatever, I pay my taxes.
Yes.
And since we don't have a township treasurer, I'd like to know where the collection fees are going.
To the county.
To the county. But we're paying the county to collect the taxes. So we pay double?
No,
No.
we're not playing.
I'm not asking you that.
Let
I'm on
Common
the board.
sense.
Let me explain that to you, how that works. The county collects an admin fee from us
Okay,
every year.
yeah,
Okay. What's happened this year is, that's what they use the money to do the tax, to pay the people to do the taxes, was that administration fee that we pay them, that 1% that they give. That's what the money they use to do that.
but like my collection fee that the township clerk was getting that goes to the township does not come to the township now, it goes to the county, right?
We always,
That $2 or something was given for your taxes.
right, that's the administration fee the county always gets.
And we may get some of that back,
We-
we may not, I don't know.
We don't know how much they use. Excuse me?
So we may get some of that back, we may have to pay more, until they bill us, we're not gonna know.
Okay, that's all I want to know.
Thank you, ma'am, I'll ask the board.
Go right ahead.
I think you had a motion to adjourn and I seconded it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting